Hey everybody, this is Deb with Truthification Chronicles, and this video is a C-SPAN video that I found when I was looking around. I saw that one of the Anons had posted a quote from Jackie Walorski, who is one of Indiana's representatives, and I wanted to see what she had said about it. I wanted to hear it in context. Well, in the process, I came across this, and this is the video actually, but if you notice, it's like almost 7 hours long. So I didn't want to watch the entire 7 hours. But if you go into these and you put down here 962, that's the name of the bill she was talking about. And it is a Born Alive bill is what it's called. And it protects surviving children who have been born from a failed abortion. And it requires the doctors present to give them aid and to help them survive. And so I wanted to see what she had to say. Well, in the process, I came across this clip of Steve Scalise trying to get the House to vote on this, for the leadership to bring it up to a vote. Well, of course, you know that the House is under the Democrat majority. Well, they don't want to bring this to the floor. And so listen to what happens to this guy and what he has to go through to try to get them to do that. And he still didn't succeed.
For what purpose does the gentleman of Louisiana seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that the Committee on Judiciary be discharged from further consideration of H.R. 962, the Born Alive Survivors Protection Act, and I ask for its immediate consideration in the House.
Under guidelines consistently issued by successive speakers as recorded in Section 956 of the House Rules and Manual, the chair is constrained not to entertain the request unless it has been cleared by the bipartisan floor and committee leaderships.
A parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman will stake his inquiry.
Now, I understand the guidelines you decided, Mr. Speaker, but seeing no objection from either side of the House, would that constitute clearance and allow the chair to entertain my motion under the rules of the House?
A unanimous consent request for the consideration of that measure would have to be receive clearance by the majority and the minority floor and committee leadership. The chair is unaware of such clearance. Therefore, the chair cannot entertain that request at this time.
Further parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Speaker.
Inquiry.
Again, seeing no objection on either side of the aisle, Mr. Speaker, can the chair advise what is required pursuant to Section 956 of the House Rules to allow my motion to be considered?
The chair would have to be made aware of such clearance.
So, Mr. Speaker, is there any guidance under Section 956 of the House Rules to have that motion be in order?
Again, the chair has not been made aware of the requisite clearance.
Mr. Speaker, can the ruling of the chair be challenged?
The chair has not ruled.
Mr. Speaker, I ask the chair to rule on the motion of unanimous consent.
The gentleman was not recognized for that unanimous consent.
So, Mr. Speaker,
the request cannot be entertained.
So, Mr. Speaker, is there a motion that can be made under the rules that have been cited to allow for the immediate consideration of H.R. 962?
The chair would not issue an advisory opinion on that request.
Mr. Speaker, if this unanimous consent request can't be entertained, I would urge the Speaker and the Majority Leader to schedule the Born Alive bill immediately so we can stand up and protect the sanctity of human life, Mr. Speaker. And I would ask all others to join in that request. And I yield back.
Gentleman has not been recognized for debate.
Yield back, Mr. Speaker.
Wasn't that incredible? I mean, how frustrating would it be to have that be your job, to try to do things like that every day? I mean, he was doing the best he could, but also if you watched his expression, I don't think he planned on succeeding. I don't think he figured they would do it. So I think he knew from the start it was not going to work, but he had already planned on these different steps because he knew that was going to be the response. So I just thought that was very interesting to see. Now, the Jackie Walorski one, if you click on these, you can just click right here on the play button, and it will take you to that section of the thing. She's at the podium now. When the video is playing, the cursor won't show on the C-SPAN videos. So one reason why I usually try to watch it on YouTube if possible. But anyway, so there it is. And there she is at the podium. And I will play that in just a second. But I did want to show you how to navigate this in case you want to check out some things for yourself. And like I said, you can put this in there. You can filter by speaker. And they do have the text here. So if you're looking for something specific that was said on a certain day, you can go through and do a search like I did on the HR 962. And so I put that in here, searched, and these were the 3 things that came up. These 2 are Scalise, and then this one down here was her. So you can see that was almost five hours into it. So, and his was 3 hours in, and hers was 5 hours in. So there it is, and I'm going to play that for you so you can hear what she had to say.
For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Indiana rise?
Mr. Speaker, unanimous consent to address the House floor in 1 minute and revise and extend my remarks.
The gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to urge a vote on H.R. 962, the Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act. This bill would require doctors to provide medical attention to children who survive an abortion attempt. Unfortunately, H.R. 962 is needed more than ever with the passage of a radical law in New York State that essentially legalizes infanticide. That law allows abortions up to and even after birth and ends safeguards that protect babies born alive after failed abortions. Similar bills are being debated right now in states like Virginia, where the governor spoke of making newborns comfortable while doctors and patients decide if they should be left to die. We have to stand up against this radical legislation and protect the rights of all infants. This is not a partisan issue. It's simply what is right to do. Congress must pass the Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act, and I urge the Speaker of this House to schedule a vote as soon as possible. Thank you, and I yield back.
So that's what she had to say. You see, they only get 1 minute, so she had to talk fast and had to get as much in as she could. But I think she did a really good job. And she's right on with it. It needs to be something that comes up to vote, and it really should not be a partisan issue when it comes to infanticide. It needs to be something where those children are protected. But we do know that Barack Obama, I believe, voted against legislation that would protect those children. So not everybody sees it the same way. In my mind, I cannot imagine how anyone could have a born alive baby and then decide that it's time for it to die. If you know anything about the Gosnell trial, that was what it was all about. How he made that decision many, many, many times. Anyway, so this was just something I wanted to put out there. If you're from Indiana, you may know Jackie Walorski. And I thought you might find it interesting to know how the procedures go. Things happen so slowly in our House of Representatives purely because of all these rules of order that they have to follow. And sometimes it gets very messy. And I'm sure for the conservatives right now, it gets very frustrating. So I just wanted to let you know that. You know, they do a lot, and sometimes people think, oh, well, they get a lot of days off. Well, yes, but those days are off so that they can come back and talk to their constituents. It's not necessarily as cushy a job as you think it might be, because there's a lot that actually goes on, and they have committees, all kinds of committees. And I did want to show you this. Adam Schiff is the chairman of the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. I know. It makes me laugh too when I hear that. Of all people to put in charge of intelligence, that's not the person I choose. Anyway, he went through, and now that he is the chairman, he redid a bunch of stuff. He adopted new committee rules and a new subcommittee structure. And he, you know, of course, they name their subcommittee chairs and members and things. So that's pretty typical. But look at this. They refer back to that very special day in 2001 that I'm not going to mention because they like to demonetize videos that talk about it. But we all know what day that was. And he refers back to that, and then he talks about how they need to structure things to deal with stuff like that. And it's like, wait a minute, you're still going back that many years? Anyway, so I thought I would bring this up to you. As always, I'll put all the links down below and you can see those for yourself. And that's what the Democrats are doing. And then on that same committee, guess what the Republicans are doing? Yes, they are calling for immediate release of witness transcripts so people can actually see what was said and what's going on and why this whole Russia collusion thing is a big bunch of hooey. So that's what they're working on. I don't know if it's going to come through or not, but I assume it will. Also, one more thing. If you are a Q follower, you may have already seen this because Q posted this today. But this was the report that we were kind of waiting. We knew it had to come out like February 4th is when it got to the president. And I thought maybe he would refer to some of it in his State of the Union address, but he didn't. But basically, this report, what it says is, hey, there was no foreign influence on the election. So, in other words, there no material impact of foreign interference on the election, and that's the conclusion that they came up with. Now, it does say the classified report was prepared. So this is a classified report. They cannot release the report itself, but it did go to Trump and Whitaker and Kirstjen Nielsen and I think Dan Coates also, who is the DNI. Yeah, the Director of National Intelligence. I think he actually got it first. The finding was informed by a report prepared by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, pursuant to the same executive order, and is consistent with what was indicated by the U.S. government after the 2018 election. So while the report remains classified, its findings will help drive future efforts to protect election and political campaign infrastructure from foreign interference. So that was not a surprise. We knew that was going to come up empty because there was no Russian collusion and Russia did not have a significant impact on our election. And all of those Russian bots that they're talking about were not Russian bots. They were real people like you and me. And we decided to vote for Trump because we didn't like Hillary and we knew that she was going to take our country in the wrong direction. I don't know about all of you that voted for Trump, but I'm pretty happy with the vote. And I will vote for him again in 2020 without hesitation at all. So I wanted to share those with you. I'll give you the links down below. You can check them for yourself, as always. And there's one other article that one of my commenters put in there. This is really a good link, and I'm sorry I don't remember your name. It started with an M, I think. So sorry about that. I should have written it down. It was not like an easy to remember name. But this is an article about Trey Gowdy. And Trey Gowdy is somebody, this was dated February 9th, so it just came out. But I'll leave this so you can read through it yourself. It was a really good article about him, I thought. And it kind of told a little bit more about his thinking about things. And one of the reasons that he wanted to one of the reasons he got into politics was because he had been doing so many very gruesome murder trials. And it was something that he wanted to get away from, to distance himself from, to kind of protect his family. And then he got into politics and he had more people threatening him. And so it became a lot more dangerous. But I've had a lot of people who have said, you know, Gowdy, they wanted Gowdy for the AG. They wanted Gowdy for FBI director. Well, yeah, they did have other positions they may have offered him. And a lot of people were saying SCOTUS, that they were going to put him in the Supreme Court. I made a video a long, long time ago, one of my very first videos, where I talked about Gowdy and that he's not going to be a Supreme Court justice. And the reason is because he's a prosecutor. He loves to prosecute. That's what he's so good at. I mean, from just listening to how he asked questions and he could grill people like no one else in Congress, you knew that that's what he was made to do. Now, Q has said that they have a special position for him. Possibly it was, you know, the AG, or possibly it was the FBI director, I just don't think so, to be honest. I think the position they have for him is going to come once everything starts happening, because they're going to need a really keen prosecutor to do some of this, and especially the very, very high profile case of a couple of former presidents and one wannabe president. So when those happen, those are going to be such high-profile cases that they will probably be the most high-profile cases in the entire world, and maybe even in history. So they're going to need somebody who's very sharp, who can really get in there, and who can do the job well. And I personally think that's the job they have for him. And I think that's going to be a very important job, and it will be kind of like a reward, because he has been a faithful patriot. I know some people don't like Trey Gowdy and everything, but he was doing what he could do. The problem was he kept getting blocked every time he was trying to do something right. And that is something we're still seeing, because you still have so many deep state players, and whenever he tried to get documents released, they were blocked. And you know the drill. We've been watching it happen for years now. And so he was very frustrated with what was going on, because the rules weren't the same as they are in a regular courtroom. In a regular courtroom, the documents and the evidence and everything are there. You go in, you present your case, the other guy presents the defendant's case, and then the judge rules. That's not the way it works in Congress, and unfortunately, Congress can't prosecute. So this, I think, was probably very frustrating to him. But that's my take on Trey Gowdy. Again, I don't know the guy, so I don't know if that's accurate, but from what I've observed watching him many times, I just think that that probably is what was going on. I think that the whole political thing was more than he wanted, because he doesn't want to play the game. He wants to do what's right. And it's kind of like Jim Jordan. You can just see the frustration on these men, just like it was with Steve Scalise in this clip. I mean, look how frustrating that would be, because you're trying to do what's right, and you've got these people that are blocking you every time you turn around. So if you're a praying person, please pray for our people in Congress. You know, the senators and the representatives, they're facing some really tough things, especially the conservatives. And the moderate Democrats actually are facing a similar thing, because there are so many political games going on right now that in order to stay in the game, you have to make compromises. And I'm afraid many of our people have had to make compromises. Trey Gowdy is leaving probably because he wouldn't make compromises. And I think that probably is why some of the others did as well. And so we need to keep them in our prayers. They really do need that extra wisdom and the extra stamina to be able to stand up against these things. So that's what I've got for you. Make sure that you click the subscribe button if you're not a subscriber already. And if you already are, I want to thank you a lot. Also, the bell will notify you when my videos come out, hopefully. And most of you know that I'm working towards 60,000 by my birthday, which is in the middle of April. So let's try to get that many, okay? I want to thank you so much for stopping by, and I'll see you all later.